Okay, the next concept we're going to discuss is the deflator. So the deflator is that measure of inflation that we use to differentiate between nominal and real GDP. And I'll show you right now how it's calculated, and then next class when we're discussing other measures of inflation, and particularly the consumer and the producer price indices, we'll conceptually think about how the deflator may differ and how it may be better or worse as a measure of inflation. But the important thing is that but it is the best measure of the overall size of the economy and the amount of production is real GDP. And the difference between real and nominal GDP is the fact that we're using the deflator to remove the inflation from nominal GDP in order to end up with real GDP. And so we just went through the process of how you calculate nominal GDP and real GDP, given a set of prices and amount of production. And we calculate real GDP by using a base year's prices to calculate the value of the production that occurred in a different year if it had occurred at the prices of the base year. And so in terms of the deflator, in year one, the deflator would be 3,600 divided by 3,600. And then we just multiply it by 100 just to make things easy. We think of the deflator as sort of a number that's going to be 100 in the base year, because obviously 3,600 divided by 3,600 is 1 times 100 equals 100. So the deflator will always be 100 in the base year. So if we think about what the Bureau of Economic Analysis is using right now, 2005 as the base year. So in the year 2005, a real GDP and nominal GDP will be the same, and the deflator would have a value of 100. Prices generally go up, so in years prior to 2005, we'll have a deflator that's less than 100, probably somewhere in the 90s for year 2004 and years prior to that, and then could even be as low as in the 80s and in the 70s as we move farther back in time. And then moving forward, the GDP deflator will have a value greater than 100 as prices increase. And so prices don't always increase, but if they do increase, and they generally do, and they have been over the past few years, really over the past many years, we're going to see a deflator above 100 as we move on into the future from the base year. So for year two, the deflator is going to be 6,900 divided by 5,600. So we take our nominal GDP divided by our real GDP, multiplied by 100, and we get the deflator for year two, which, look at my little cheat sheet here. In this example, the deflator is going to be 123.21. And then finally, in year three, our nominal GDP is 7470. Our real GDP is 5100. And we multiply that by 100, and the deflator has a value of 146.47. Now, these numbers are, it's just an arbitrary number that we picked year one as the base year, and set that to 100, and then we compare it to the other 2 years. But what is valuable is comparing one year to the next. So you can sort of eyeball this and just see that prices increased by 23.21% between year one and year two, and then we can also think about how much the prices increased, what was the inflation rate between year two and year three, and that would be 146.47 minus 123.21 divided by 123.21. So you take the second year, the later year divided by the later year minus the earlier year divided by the earlier year. All of that. I actually bought a new tripod since the last video to make sure that the camera remains pointing at the at the whiteboard correctly. Let me see here. I will just quickly do this calculation. 146.47 minus 123.21 equals 23.26. Divide that by 123.21, and we end up with an inflation rate of it's basically 18.9% once you round it up. So 18.9% is the inflation rate between year 2 and year 3, using the GDP deflator as the measure of inflation. As I said, and we'll learn more later on, there are other measures of inflation that may actually even be better at capturing what's actually happening with overall prices. But in terms of the GDP deflator as a measure of inflation, it says that prices went up 18.9% between year 2 and year 3, given this example, and our very simple economy that only produces footballs and basketballs. So that's all I have to say tonight about GDP and deflators and real GDP and nominal GDP and all of that. As always, if you have any questions, particularly if you have any problems with the homework, certainly feel free to give me a call or send me an email. It's better to not do it just right before class starts when the homework is due, but to try to think about getting that to me Monday night at the latest, so we have a chance I have a chance to respond, and then you have a chance to think about my response and hopefully be successful in completing your homework. All right, I'll see you in class.